You arrogant, entitled piece of... Careful, sweetheart. There are security cameras recording every word. The elevator lurched to a violent stop between the 47th and 48th floors of Blackstone Tower, trapping Scarlet Rivers with the one man in Manhattan she'd rather throw off the building. The emergency lights flickered ominously as rain hammered against the glass shaft, creating an almost apocalyptic atmosphere 30 stories above the city. Damon Blackstone stood in the corner like a predator assessing his prey, his midnight black, suit impeccable despite the chaos outside. Lightning illuminated his sharp features, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers and broke hearts professionally. But right now, those steel-gray eyes held nothing but cold calculation. "Don't you dare sweetheart me!" Scarlet snapped, her emerald dress, borrowed from her roommate for this disaster of an evening, now wrinkled from her furious pacing. "You just humiliated me in front of 300 people downstairs. You destroyed my presentation, made me look like a fool, and now you have the audacity to... To what? Tell the truth?" Damon's voice was silk wrapped around a blade. "Your little charity pitch was amateur hour, Miss Rivers. Solar panels for underprivileged communities. Do you have any idea how naive that sounds to actual investors?" "Naive?" Scarlet's voice rose an octave. The confined space suddenly felt electric, charged with more than just the storm outside. "That naive project could power 12,000 homes and create 800 jobs. But I forgot. You wouldn't understand impact beyond your profit margins." Something flickered across Damon's face. Surprise, maybe even respect. But it vanished quickly. "Passion without strategy is just noise, darling. And you made a lot of noise tonight." The elevator shuddered, and Scarlet grabbed the rail, her knuckles white. She'd been trapped in this metal box with Manhattan's most ruthless billionaire for exactly 4 minutes, and already she wanted to either kiss him or kill him. Maybe both. "You want to know what's really naive?" she said, stepping closer despite every survival instinct screaming at her to back away. "Thinking that just because you own half the city, you own everyone in it. Some of us can't be bought, Mr. Blackstone. Everyone has a price." His eyes traveled slowly from her face to her lips, then back up, leaving a trail of fire in their wake. "The question is whether they're honest enough to admit it." "Not everyone." But her voice wavered, slightly, and they both heard it. "No?" He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something dark and intoxicating that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "What if I told you I've been watching you for months? Following your work, your grades, your 3 part-time jobs just to keep your head above water?" Scarlet's breath caught. "What?" "MIT early admission at 17. Double major in computer science and applied physics. Currently maintaining a 4.0 GPA while working at a coffee shop, tutoring center, and research lab. Living on instant noodles and determination, because your scholarship fell through when your father's medical bills destroyed your family's finances." The color drained from her face. "How do you know all that?" "Because extraordinary minds fascinate me, Miss Rivers. And yours is extraordinary." Lightning cracked outside, illuminating them both in stark relief. "Which is why I'm about to make you an offer that will change everything. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, it's an investment." His smile was predatory, beautiful, and absolutely terrifying. "I'll pay for your entire MIT education. Tuition, room, board, books, everything. Plus a salary of $200,000 per year." Scarlet's heart stopped. That was more money than her family had ever seen. "What's the catch?" "You move into my penthouse, work as my personal assistant, accompany me to every business dinner, charity gala, and social function for the next 2 years." His eyes never left hers. "Essentially, you become my companion." "Your companion?" The words tasted dangerous on her tongue. "I need someone intelligent by my side. Someone who can discuss quantum mechanics over champagne and won't bore me with vapid small talk. He stepped even closer, and she could feel the heat radiating from his body. I need someone who can challenge me, fight with me, keep me interested. The elevator shuddered again, and suddenly they were pressed against each other, his hands instinctively moving to her waist to steady her. The contact sent electricity shooting through every nerve ending. "This is insane," she whispered, but she didn't pull away. The best deals usually are. His voice was husky now, intimate in the small space. 2 years, Scarlett. Give me 2 years, and I'll give you the future you've been fighting for. She stared up at him, her mind reeling. This close, she could see flecks of blue in his gray eyes, could count his ridiculously long eyelashes. There was something vulnerable there, hidden beneath all that controlled power. A loneliness that called to something deep inside her. "And what do you get out of it?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Maybe I'm tired of being surrounded by people who only tell me what they think I want to hear." His thumb traced a small circle on her hip, probably unconsciously, but it sent fire racing through her veins. "Maybe I want someone who will call me an arrogant piece of—" "I wasn't going to say peace," she interrupted, and was rewarded with the first genuine smile she'd seen from him all evening. "I know exactly what you were going to say." His laugh was rich, warm, completely different from the cold businessman who'd destroyed her presentation downstairs. "That's why this will work. You're offering me a job as your— what? Trophy girlfriend? I'm offering you a partnership, business only." But the way his eyes lingered on her lips suggested otherwise. "Though I should warn you, I'm not easy to work with. I'm demanding, perfectionist, and I don't tolerate failure." "And I should warn you," she said, placing her palm flat against his chest, feeling his heartbeat accelerate. "I don't take orders well. I argue about everything, and I've never backed down from a fight in my life." "Perfect." The word was barely a breath against her ear. The elevator lurched back to life with a mechanical groan, breaking the spell. They sprang apart as if they'd been burned, both breathing heavily in the suddenly normal-seeming space. "So," Damon said, straightening his tie with practiced precision, his businessman mask sliding back into place. "Do we have a deal, Miss Rivers?" Scarlett looked at him, really looked. Beneath the perfectly tailored armor and calculated charm, she glimpsed something raw and hungry, something that matched the desperate ambition clawing at her own chest. She thought of her cramped studio apartment with its broken heating, her father's medical bills that never seemed to end, her dreams of changing the world that grew fainter with each rejected application. Then she thought of MIT, of laboratories where she could build the future, of never having to choose between textbooks and groceries again. "You're offering me everything I've ever wanted," she said quietly. "Yes. In exchange for 2 years of my life. 2 years that could give you the next 50. The elevator dinged softly as they reached the ground floor. In moments, the doors would open and she'd have to choose, return to her small, struggling life, or step into something magnificent and terrifying. "I must be completely insane," she whispered. "Probably." His eyes held hers as the doors began to slide open. "Is that a yes?" Scarlett Rivers looked at the storm raging outside, then back at the man who could either save her or destroy her. Completely. "Yes," she said, and felt her entire world shift on its axis. "Excellent." Damon's smile was pure satisfaction as he offered her his arm. "Welcome to your new life, sweetheart." As they stepped out into the marble lobby, Scarlett realized she'd just made a deal with the devil himself. The only question now was whether she'd come out the other side with her soul intact. This has to be a joke. Scarlett stood in the marble foyer of Damon's penthouse, her single duffel bag looking pathetic against the backdrop of what could only be described as architectural porn. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan that made her feel like she was floating above the world. The space was all clean lines and expensive surfaces, white marble, black granite, and enough steel to build a small skyscraper. "I don't joke about real estate," Damon replied, loosening his tie as he walked past her toward what appeared to be a bar that belonged in a 5-star hotel. "Drink? It's 9 in the morning. It's 5 o'clock somewhere." He poured himself 2 fingers of something amber and expensive. "Besides, you look like you could use it." Scarlett caught her reflection in the polished surface of a side table and winced. Her emergency outfit, jeans and a Columbia hoodie she'd thrown on at dawn, made her look like a college student who'd wandered into the wrong tax bracket. Which, she supposed, she was. "Where exactly am I supposed to sleep?" she asked, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. The contract signing at 6 a.m. had been a blur of legal terms, and Damon's lawyer explaining things she was too overwhelmed to fully process. "Your room is down the hall. Master suite, walk-in closet, private bathroom." His eyes traveled over her outfit with something that might have been amusement. "Though we'll need to discuss your wardrobe." "What's wrong with my wardrobe?" "Nothing. If you're planning to attend business meetings at a campus coffee shop." He set down his glass and moved toward her with that predatory grace she was beginning to recognize. "You're about to enter a world where appearances matter, sweetheart. Where a single photograph can make or break deals worth millions." "Don't call me sweetheart." But her protest lacked heat. Being this close to him in daylight was somehow more unsettling than their elevator encounter. He'd changed into dark jeans and a white button-down that was probably worth more than her monthly rent, and the casual look made him seem more human, more dangerous. "What would you prefer? Darling? Princess?" His smile was pure mischief. "I could go with the woman who's about to make me $200 million richer." "How exactly am I going to do that?" "By being brilliant." The simple statement caught her off guard. "The Morrison Tech acquisition hinges on their CEO believing I'm a stable, committed man. Not the playboy the tabloids paint me as. Having an intelligent, accomplished woman by my side changes the narrative. So I'm your beard. You're my secret weapon." He moved to a wall panel and pressed something that made an entire section slide away, revealing a closet that was bigger than her entire apartment. "Which is why we start with this." Scarlett's jaw dropped. The space was filled with clothes, designer dresses, tailored suits, casual wear that probably cost more than most people's cars. Everything was organized by color and season, with accessories displayed like museum pieces. "You bought me clothes?" Her voice came out strangled. "I had my stylist put together essentials. We can adjust based on your preferences." He pulled out a black dress that was elegant without being flashy. "Try this. We have lunch with the Morrison CEO in 2 hours." 2 hours? Scarlett grabbed the dress, panic rising in her throat. "You can't just throw me into a business meeting without preparation. You spent 4 years debating economic policy in college. You can handle lunch." But something in his expression softened. "Hey, look at me." Reluctantly, she met his eyes. "You're not here because you're pretty, Scarlett. You're here because you're extraordinary. Don't forget that." The compliment hit her like a physical blow, warm and unexpected. For a moment, the careful walls they'd both constructed wavered. "I don't know how to be your whatever this is," she admitted quietly. "Neither do I." His honesty surprised them both. "Maybe we figure it out together." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. The moment of vulnerability vanished as he answered with crisp professionalism. "Blackstone? Yes, the Morrison contracts are ready. No, push the Singapore call. To 3. Scarlett watched him transform back into the ruthless businessman, and something twisted in her chest. Which version was real? The man who'd offered her everything, or the one who treated her like another business acquisition? 1 hour. he said after ending the call. "Can you be ready?" "I can be ready." She lifted her chin, channeling every ounce of stubborn pride she possessed. "But we need to establish some ground rules." His eyebrow arched. "Such as?" "First, no more surprise meetings. I need preparation time." She started counting on her fingers. "Second, I want a detailed explanation of every business situation before we walk into it. Third, no public displays of affection without prior discussion." "Concerned you might enjoy it too much?" The question was loaded with something that made her pulse quicken. "Concerned you might," she shot back, and was rewarded with a laugh that transformed his entire face. "Fair enough. Any other demands, princess?" "Stop calling me princess. And—" She hesitated, then forged ahead. "I want to know why you really chose me. The truth this time." The amusement faded from his expression. For a long moment he studied her with those unsettling gray eyes. "Because you're the first person in 5 years who looked me in the eye and told me exactly what you thought of me," he said finally. "Most people see dollar signs when they look at me. You see a man you're not sure you like. I'm still not sure I like you." "Good." His smile was sharp, predatory. "Boredom is my greatest fear, Scarlet Rivers. I have a feeling that won't be a problem with you." An hour later, Scarlet stared at herself in the full-length mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. The black dress fit like it had been made for her body, hugging curves she usually hid under oversized sweaters. Her hair, tamed by some miracle product from the closet's beauty arsenal, fell in sleek waves past her shoulders. She looked like she belonged in Damon's world. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. "Ready?" His voice came from behind her, and she turned to find him in the doorway, looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. "Do I look okay?" "You look—" He paused, and something flickered across his face. "You look perfect." The word hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to examine. "Let's go make you $200 million, Scarlet said, and walked past him toward whatever came next. As they left the penthouse together, she caught their reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls. They looked like the perfect power couple, beautiful, successful, completely in control. If only they could see the storm of uncertainty raging beneath the surface. "Remember, we've been together for 6 months. Scarlet nearly choked on her champagne as Damon's hand settled possessively on her lower back. They stood at the entrance of Le Bernardin, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, about to face their first test as a couple. The maitre d' was already approaching with the kind of smile reserved for billionaires. 6 months? She hissed through her own smile. "You couldn't have mentioned this crucial detail earlier?" "I'm mentioning it now." His fingers traced a small circle against her spine, sending unwanted shivers through her nervous system. "We met at a charity auction. You were presenting your solar energy project. I was immediately captivated by your passion." "How romantic," she muttered, then plastered on a radiant smile as the maitre d' reached them. "Mr. Blackstone, what a pleasure. Your usual table." "Actually, we'll take the private dining room today. I want to show off my beautiful companion without distractions." Damon's voice carried just the right note of infatuation, and Scarlet had to admit he was a better actor than she'd expected. As they were led through the restaurant, she became acutely aware of the stares following them. Phones discreetly appeared, and she realized that by tomorrow, her face would be splashed across every gossip blog in the city. "Breathe," Damon murmured against her ear. "You're doing perfectly." "I haven't done anything yet." "Exactly. You look natural. Like you belong here." His hand found hers, fingers intertwining with practiced ease. "Just be yourself." The private dining room was intimate. Too intimate. Soft lighting, fresh orchids, and a view of the kitchen where world-renowned chefs worked like artists. Scarlett was still processing the luxury when two figures approached their table. Damon! The man was in his 50s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, with the kind of confidence that came from building empires. And this must be the famous Scarlett. Famous? Scarlett shot Damon a look that promised retribution later. James Morrison, the man continued, and my wife, Patricia. We've heard so much about you. Patricia Morrison was elegant in that effortless way that came from old money. Perfectly styled blonde hair, understated jewelry, and a smile that was warm but assessing. Scarlett felt like a specimen under a microscope. The pleasure is mine, Scarlett managed, accepting Patricia's air kisses, while trying not to hyperventilate. Damon's told us you're working on renewable energy solutions, James said as they settled into their seats. Fascinating field. Very idealistic. There was something in his tone that made Scarlett's spine straighten. Idealistic? What James means, Patricia interjected smoothly, is that it's wonderful to see young people with such passion for changing the world. Even if it's not always practical, James added with a condescending smile. Scarlett felt Damon tense beside her, but before he could intervene, she leaned forward. Actually, Mr. Morrison, idealism is just vision without a business plan. I prefer to think of my work as pragmatic innovation. Her smile was sharp as a blade. After all, the most successful companies are built on solving problems others thought were impossible. Well said, Patricia murmured, and Scarlett caught the approval in her eyes. James looked less convinced. And how exactly do you plan to make solar energy profitable in urban environments? For the next 20 minutes, Scarlett found herself in an intellectual duel with one of the country's most successful tech moguls. She discussed efficiency ratios, government incentives, and implementation strategies, while Damon watched with an expression she couldn't read. You know, James said finally, setting down his wine glass. I have to admit, when Damon told me he was dating a student, I expected... He gestured vaguely. A bimbo? Scarlett suggested sweetly. Someone less... formidable, Patricia finished, with a laugh. I like her, Damon. She's got fire. She certainly does, Damon agreed, his hand finding Scarlett's under the table. His thumb traced patterns across her knuckles, and she had to concentrate not to shiver. So tell us, Patricia leaned forward conspiratorially. How did you two really meet? The charity auction story is lovely, but I want details. Scarlett's mind went blank. They hadn't rehearsed this part. It was actually quite dramatic, Damon said smoothly. Scarlett was so passionate during her presentation that she knocked over the podium. I was in the front row and got completely soaked with her water glass. You did not. Scarlett turned to stare at him, genuinely horrified. She was mortified. He continued, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Kept apologizing while I'm standing there dripping wet in a $3,000 suit. But instead of running away, she started lecturing me about how my carbon footprint was probably destroying the planet. That sounds like something I would do, Scarlett admitted, getting caught up in the fiction. I was supposed to be annoyed, Damon said, his voice softening. Instead, I was completely captivated. Here was this brilliant, beautiful woman who looked at me and saw not my bank account, but my potential to actually make a difference. The way he said it, with such conviction, made Scarlett's heart skip. For a moment, she almost believed he was telling the truth. And then, Patricia prompted. Then he offered to buy me coffee to make up for ruining my presentation, Scarlett found herself saying. I said yes, but only if he let me explain why his company's energy consumption was an environmental disaster. She had charts, Damon added, solemnly. Detailed charts. Of course she did, James laughed. And you found this charming? I found it extraordinary. Damon's eyes met Scarlett's, and something electric passed between them. She challenged me in ways no one had in years, made me want to be better. The silence that followed was charged with something too real to be acting. Scarlett found herself drowning in those gray eyes, forgetting they had an audience. "Well," Patricia said finally, "that's the most romantic thing I've heard in years." "It's also good business sense," James added pragmatically. "Damon, you've always been brilliant at seeing potential where others see problems. It's why I want Morrison Tech to partner with Blackstone Industries." "About that," Damon said, his professional mask sliding back into place, "I think we should discuss terms." For the next hour, Scarlett watched Damon work. He was masterful, charming, strategic, never showing his hand until the perfect moment. When James hesitated over environmental clauses, Damon smoothly brought the conversation back to Scarlett's expertise. When Patricia questioned the timeline, he painted a picture of innovation that was both ambitious and achievable. "You know what convinced me?" James said as they prepared to leave. "It's not the numbers, though they're impressive. It's seeing you two together. Damon, I've known you for 5 years, and I've never seen you this settled, this happy." "Scarlett brings out the best in me," Damon replied, his arm sliding around her waist. "And he challenges me to think bigger," Scarlett added, surprised to find she meant it. After the Morrisons left, Scarlett and Damon found themselves alone, in the private dining room. The performance was over, but neither moved away from the other. $200 million, Damon said quietly. "We did it? We did it." He turned to face her fully, his expression unreadable. "You were incredible. The way you handled James, the passion in your voice when you talked about your work. I got carried away. You were perfect." His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. For a moment there, I almost believed our story myself. "Damon," she wasn't sure what she was going to say, but the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "We should go," he said abruptly, dropping his hand and stepping back. "I have calls to make." The sudden distance felt like a physical blow. Scarlett nodded, wrapping her composure around herself like armor. As they walked through the restaurant, she caught their reflection in the window. Still the perfect power couple, but now she could see the cracks in their facade. The question was whether they were acting too well, or not acting at all. "Scarlett?" Damon's voice was carefully neutral. "Thank you. For today. You were extraordinary." She looked at him, searching for the man who'd looked at her like she was his whole world just minutes ago. But the billionaire mask was firmly in place. "Just doing my job," she replied, matching his tone. But as they drove back to the penthouse in silence, she couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere between the lies and the performance, something dangerously real had begun to bloom. "You're avoiding me." Damon looked up from his laptop to find Scarlett standing in the doorway of his home office, wearing nothing but an oversized MIT sweatshirt and fury. It had been 3 days since the Morrison lunch, 3 days of careful politeness and strategic distance, and apparently she'd had enough. "I'm working," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "At 2 a.m? She stepped into the room, and he caught a glimpse of long, bare legs beneath the sweatshirt hem. His concentration shattered completely. "You've been hiding in here for days." "I don't hide." "No? Then what do you call leaving for the office before I wake up and coming home after I've gone to bed?" She moved closer, and he caught the scent of her shampoo, something light and floral that had been driving him insane since she'd moved in. "What do you call having your assistant schedule all my meals and activities so we never have to actually see each other?" Damon closed his laptop with more force than necessary. I call it maintaining professional boundaries. Professional boundaries? Scarlett's laugh was sharp, wounded. Is that what we're calling it? The tension that had been building for days finally snapped. Damon stood, his control fraying at the edges. What exactly do you want from me, Scarlett? I want to know why you're acting like I have some contagious disease. Her voice rose, echoing off the glass walls. 3 days ago, you looked at me like I mattered. Now you can barely stand to be in the same room. Because it's better this way. Better for who? For both of us. He moved toward the window, putting distance between them. Outside, Manhattan glittered like a circuit board, cold and beautiful and safe. What happened at lunch was good. We worked well together. We made them believe. We made ourselves believe. The admission tore out of him like a confession. For a few hours, I forgot this was an arrangement. I forgot you're here because you need the money, not because you want to be. The silence that followed was deafening. When he finally turned around, Scarlett was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. You think I'm only here for the money? Aren't you? Something flickered across her face. Hurt, maybe, or disappointment. You really don't know me at all, do you? Before he could respond, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. The Morrison logo flashed on the screen, and Damon felt his blood pressure spike. James, he answered, putting the call on speaker. It's late. I know, but I couldn't wait until morning. Morrison's voice filled the room, excited and urgent. The board voted. We want to move forward with the partnership, but there's one condition. Damon's jaw tightened. What condition? They want to meet Scarlett, properly. There's a charity gala next Friday, the Children's Hospital fundraiser. Black tie, very exclusive. If she can charm the board the way she charmed Patricia and me, the deal is done. Scarlett's eyes widened, but Damon kept his expression neutral. That's not a problem. Excellent. Oh, and Damon? Bring your A game. These people aren't just investing money. They're investing in you, in your stability, your future. Morrison paused meaningfully. Make sure they see a man worth betting on. After he hung up, the office felt smaller, charged with unspoken tension. A charity gala, Scarlett said quietly. More performance art. It's one night. Right. One more night of pretending to be madly in love with a man who can't even look at me without flinching. Her voice was steady, but he caught the tremor underneath. I don't flinch. You're flinching right now. She stepped closer, and he forced himself to hold still. What are you so afraid of, Damon? The question hit like a physical blow. What was he afraid of? That she'd see past his carefully constructed walls? That she'd realize he was just a man who'd built an empire to fill the hollow space where his heart should be? I'm not afraid of anything. Liar. She was close enough now that he could see the gold flecks in her green eyes. You're terrified that this might be real. That maybe, just maybe, I'm not here for your money. Then why are you here? The words came out rougher than he'd intended. Because you challenge me. Her honesty was devastating. Because when you look at me, I see myself the way I've always wanted to be. Brilliant, fearless, capable of anything. Because for the first time in my life, I feel like I belong somewhere. The admission hung between them like a live wire. Damon felt his carefully maintained control slipping away, replaced by something raw and dangerous. Scarlett, I'm not asking you to love me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm asking you to stop running away from the possibility that you might. Before he could respond, she turned and walked away, leaving him alone with the wreckage of his assumptions. The next morning, Damon found her in the kitchen, dressed in one of his shirts and nothing else, making coffee like she owned the place. The sight hit him like a sucker punch. "We need to talk about Friday," he said, proud of how steady his voice sounded. "Do we?" She didn't turn around, focused intently on the espresso machine. "The board members aren't like Morrison. They're sharks. They'll be looking for any sign of weakness, any crack in our story. Then we better make sure there aren't any cracks." She finally turned, and the cool professionalism in her eyes was worse than anger. "Don't worry, Mr. Blackstone. I know how to do my job." The formal address felt like a slap. "Scarlett, I'll need details about the event. Guest list, seating arrangements, key players I should know about." She moved, past him toward the door, careful not to touch him. "I assume your stylist can handle appropriate attire." "Yes, but..." "Then we're all set." She paused in the doorway. "Oh, and Damon? Next time you want to push me away, just say so. It'll save us both the drama." After she left, Damon stared at the kitchen counter where she'd been standing. A single coffee mug sat there, still warm, and somehow it felt like the loneliest thing he'd ever seen. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant. "Gala preparations confirmed. Wardrobe fitting at 2 p.m. Car service at 7 p.m. Friday. One more performance. One more night of pretending that Scarlett Rivers was just a business arrangement, instead of the woman who'd somehow managed to slip past every defense he'd ever built. The problem was, he was no longer sure who he was trying to convince. That evening, he found a note slipped under his office door. In Scarlett's precise handwriting, "For the record, I'm not here because I need the money anymore. I'm here because I need you. The question is, what do you need?" Damon stared at the note until the words blurred, then carefully folded it and placed it in his wallet, next to his heart. 3 days until the gala. 3 days to figure out whether he was brave enough to stop running from the best thing that had ever happened to him. Outside his window, Manhattan pulsed with life and possibility, but for the first time in years, Damon Blackstone felt completely and utterly lost. Jesus Christ. Damon's whiskey glass froze halfway to his lips as Scarlett descended the penthouse stairs. The emerald green gown flowed around her like liquid silk, hugging every curve before cascading to the floor in a waterfall of elegance. Her hair was swept up in an intricate updo that left her neck and shoulders bare, and the diamonds at her throat caught the light like captured stars. She looked like a goddess. She looked like everything he'd ever wanted and could never deserve. "Will I do?" Her voice was cool, professional, but he caught the slight tremor underneath. "You'll do." His own voice came out rougher than intended. "You look... expensive?" There was a bitter edge to her smile. Mission accomplished. They hadn't spoken since their confrontation 3 nights ago, communicating only through his assistant and carefully choreographed scheduling. The distance had been killing him, but seeing her like this, breathtaking and untouchable, made him realize he'd already lost her. "Scarlett, the car's here." She moved past him toward the elevator, her heels clicking against the marble, with military precision. "We should go. Wouldn't want to keep your investors waiting." The drive to the plaza was torture. They sat on opposite sides of the back seat, the space between them feeling like an ocean. Scarlett stared out the window at the glittering city, while Damon struggled with the weight of everything he couldn't say. "The key players tonight," he began, falling back on business because it was safer than the truth. "I've memorized the files." Her tone was arctic. "Morrison's board, Catherine Wells, tech mogul, hates small talk, loves environmental initiatives. Richard Crane, old money, suspicious of anyone under 40. Maria Santos, self-made billionaire, respects intelligence. Over pedigree. You've done your homework. It's what you pay me for." The words hit like a physical blow, but before he could respond, they were pulling up to the plaza. Camera flashes exploded as the door opened, and Damon stepped out, offering his hand. to help Scarlett from the car. The moment her fingers touched his, electricity shot up his arm. Their eyes met for a split second, and he saw his own torment reflected in her gaze before she looked away. "Showtime," she murmured, and transformed. The change was instantaneous and devastating. Her smile became radiant, her posture relaxed and affectionate. When she took his arm, she pressed against him just enough to suggest intimacy, and when she looked at him, her eyes held the kind of adoration that made his chest ache. "She's magnificent," someone whispered as they entered the ballroom, and Damon couldn't disagree. The plaza's grand ballroom had been transformed into a winter wonderland. Crystal chandeliers, white roses, and enough diamonds to fund a small country. Manhattan's elite mingled in their finest, but all eyes were on them as they made their entrance. "Damon," Catherine Wells approached with the focused intensity of a shark scenting blood. "And the famous Scarlett. My dear, you're even more lovely than the photographs." "Thank you, Ms. Wells. I'm honored to meet you." Scarlett's smile was perfect. Warm, but not desperate. Confident, but not arrogant. "I understand you're pioneering some fascinating initiatives in sustainable technology." For the next 20 minutes, Damon watched Scarlett work the room like she'd been born to it. She discussed quantum computing with tech moguls, debated economic policy with hedge fund managers, and charmed society matrons with stories about her research. She was brilliant, funny, and completely captivating. She was also breaking his heart. "She's extraordinary," Maria Santos murmured, appearing at his elbow. "Smart, beautiful, and clearly head over heels for you. Though I have to say, you look like a man at his own execution." "Do I?" Maria's dark eyes were knowing. "Want some advice from someone who's made every mistake in the book? Do I have a choice?" "When you find a woman who looks at you, like she does, you don't let pride or fear get in the way. Trust me on this." Before Damon could respond, the lights dimmed for the charity auction. He found Scarlett at their table, laughing at something Richard Crane had said, and the sound twisted something deep in his chest. "Having fun?" he asked, taking the seat beside her. "Immensely." But her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Your business. Associates are fascinating." The auction began. Art, jewelry, exotic vacations. Damon bid mechanically on a few pieces, his attention split between the auctioneer and the woman beside him. When a week in Tuscany came up, Scarlett's eyes lit up with genuine longing. "Lot 47, the auctioneer announced. 7 days at the Villa Marcello, including private chef and vineyard tours. Bidding starts at 50,000. 50, came a voice from across the room. 60, called another. Damon watched Scarlett's face as the bidding climbed. There was such wistfulness there, such quiet yearning, that it made his chest tight. 100,000, he called out suddenly. Scarlett's head snapped toward him. "Damon, what are you?" 150, came a counterbid. 200, Damon responded without hesitation. The room fell silent. 200,000 for a week's vacation was excessive even by their standards. Going once, going twice, sold to Mr. Blackstone. Applause filled the room, but Damon only had eyes for Scarlett. She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. "Why?" she whispered. "Because you wanted it." Something cracked in her carefully composed expression. "Damon." "Ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer called out, "if I could have your attention for our final item of the evening." A spotlight fell on the stage, revealing a stunning antique necklace, sapphires and diamonds in an intricate Art Deco design. The Morrison family is donating this 1920s sapphire necklace, valued at over $500,000. All proceeds will go directly to the Children's Hospital Cardiac Unit. Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the crowd. The necklace was museum quality, breathtaking in its craftsmanship. Bidding starts at 100,000. The price climbed quickly. 200, 300, 4. Damon found himself bidding almost unconsciously, driven by something he couldn't name. 700,000, he called out. 750, came the counter. Beside him, Scarlett grabbed his arm. Stop. It's too much. 800,000, he said, his eyes never leaving the necklace. The room held its breath. At this price, only a few bidders remained. 850. 1 million, Damon said quietly. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. $1 million for a necklace, even, a spectacular one, was insane. Going once, going twice, sold! As applause thundered around them, Scarlett turned to him with tears in her eyes. Have you lost your mind? Probably. He stood, offering his hand. Dance with me. Damon, please. The word came out broken, desperate, and something in her expression softened. She took his hand, and he led her onto the dance floor as the orchestra began a slow waltz. In his arms, she felt like everything he'd been searching for without knowing it. Her body fit against his perfectly, her hand warm in his, her scent intoxicating in the small space between them. Why did you buy the necklace? She asked softly. Because it matches your eyes. The truth escaped before he could stop it. Because I wanted to see you wear something beautiful. Because I'm apparently an idiot with more money than sense. She was quiet for a long moment, following his lead. Through the intricate steps of the waltz, the trip to Tuscany, she said finally. Were you planning to send me alone? I was planning to take you myself. Another truth, reckless and revealing. If you'd let me. As part of the arrangement? No. He pulled her closer until her forehead almost touched his. As a man who's falling in love with a woman who deserves better than this charade. The words hung between them like a confession, raw and terrifying. Around them, other couples danced, but Damon felt like they were the only two people in the world. Damon, she whispered, and her voice was full of everything he'd been too afraid to hope for. Before he could respond, a commotion at the edge of the dance floor caught his attention. Photographers had somehow gotten inside, their cameras flashing as they captured the moment. Mr. Blackstone, is it true you're engaged? When's the wedding? Scarlett, how does it feel to land Manhattan's most eligible bachelor? The spell shattered. Security moved to intercept the photographers, but the damage was done. Tomorrow, their private moment would be splashed across every gossip magazine in the city. We should go, Damon said, his jaw tight with fury. But as they made their way through the crowd, Scarlett's hand still in his, he realized something had shifted. The pretense was over. The masks had fallen away. Now all that remained was the truth, and the question of whether they were brave enough to face it. Billionaire's mystery bride, the Cinderella story that has Manhattan talking. Scarlett stared at the magazine cover featuring a stunning photo of her and Damon dancing at the gala. Her emerald gown sparkled under the ballroom lights, and the way Damon was looking at her, it was like seeing her own fairy tale reflected back at her. They used the good photo at least, she murmured, setting the magazine aside with the dozen, others scattered across the penthouse's dining table. 3 days since the gala, and the media frenzy showed no signs of slowing down. Good photo? Damon emerged from his office, looking haggard. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his shirt wrinkled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. They're calling you a gold digger in half of these, and a genius in the other half. Scarlett picked up another magazine. MIT Prodigy. Melts Ice King's heart. I particularly enjoyed this one's theory that I'm actually a Russian spy sent to steal your business secrets. Despite everything, Damon almost smiled. Are you? If I were, would I tell you? She stood, smoothing down, Her silk pajama pants, one of many expensive items that had appeared in her closet over the past week. "We need to talk." "Do we?" His walls were back up, the vulnerable man from the dance floor carefully hidden behind the billionaire's mask. "Morrison called this morning. The board approved the partnership. Congratulations. You're about to be $200 million richer." Her voice was steady, professional. "Which means our arrangement is complete." Something flickered across Damon's face. Panic, maybe, or loss. The contract specified 2 years. The contract specified until the Morrison deal was finalized. Scarlett had memorized every word of that document. Mission accomplished. They stared at each other across the dining room, the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows highlighting the distance between them. 3 days of careful politeness had built a wall neither seemed able to cross. "So what now?" Damon asked quietly. "Now I pack my things and go back to my real life." She gestured at the magazines. This was never real, remember? Just a very expensive performance. Was it? The question escaped before he could stop it. Scarlett's breath caught. Was what? A performance. The gala. The way you looked at me when we danced. He ran a hand through his hair, destroying what was left of his composure. "Tell me it was all acting, Scarlett. Tell me you felt nothing." The silence stretched between them like a tightrope. When Scarlett finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "You want to know what I felt?" She moved closer, her green eyes blazing. "I felt like I was drowning, like every carefully constructed wall I'd built around my heart was crumbling. I felt terrified and exhilarated and completely, utterly lost." Damon's jaw clenched. "Scarlett, but you know what I felt most of all?" She was close enough to touch him now, close enough to see the war raging in his gray eyes. "I felt stupid, because for a few hours, I actually believed you meant it when you said you were falling in love with me. I did mean it." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Scarlett stared at him, searching his face for any sign of deception. "Then, why are you letting me walk away?" "Because you deserve better than this." His voice was raw with honesty. "You deserve someone who can love you without conditions, without contracts, without wondering if you're only here because I'm paying you to be." "You idiot." The affection in her voice took the sting out of the insult. "Do you really think I would have stayed for the money? Do you think I would have let you buy me $1 million necklace if this was just business?" "You let me buy you a lot of things." "I let you take care of me," she corrected. "There's a difference." Damon's phone buzzed insistently, but he ignored it. "What difference?" "When someone takes care of you because they have to, it's obligation. When they do it because they want to." She reached up, cupping his face with trembling fingers. "It's love." The phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. With a curse, Damon glanced at the screen. "It's Morrison," he said reluctantly. "Take it." Scarlett stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself. "We both know the business comes first." The accusation hit its mark. Damon answered the call with clipped professionalism, turning away from her to face the windows. "James, yes, I saw the media coverage. No, Scarlett's not available for interviews." Scarlett watched him transform back into the ruthless businessman, and something inside her finally broke. She'd spent weeks waiting for him to choose her over his empire. But it was never going to happen. The business would always come first. Moving quietly, she slipped out of the dining room and headed for her bedroom. If she was going to leave, she might as well start packing. Understand the board's concerns, but Scarlett's private life is not up for discussion. Damon's voice echoed down the hallway as she closed her door. An hour later, she had everything important packed into the same duffel bag she'd arrived with. The designer clothes stayed in the closet. They belonged to the woman she'd pretended to be, not the person she actually was. She was reaching for the bedroom door when it opened, revealing Damon. He looked at the bag in her hand, and his face went completely white. "You're really leaving. The car will be here in 20 minutes. She couldn't meet his eyes. "I've left contact information with your assistant for any final paperwork." "Scarlett, wait." He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "Morrison wants to offer you a position. Head of their new environmental division, 7-figure salary, complete autonomy over your projects." The offer was everything she'd ever dreamed of, the chance to change the world with unlimited resources behind her. It was also a gilded cage. "Let me guess," she said quietly. "The position requires me to stay in New York, to remain available for company functions. It's a legitimate offer. It's another contract." She finally looked at him, and the pain in his eyes nearly undid her. "How many times are you going to try to buy me, Damon?" "I'm not trying to buy you." "No? Then what do you call this?" She gestured between them. "The penthouse, the clothes, the job offer. It's all just another way to keep me close without actually risking anything yourself." "That's not, isn't it?" Her voice broke slightly. "You'd rather pay me to stay than tell me you love me. You'd rather make this about business than admit you might actually need someone." Damon's composure finally cracked. "You want to know what I need?" His voice was rough with emotion. "I need you to stay. Not because of any contract or arrangement, but because the thought of you walking out that door is killing me." Scarlett's bag slipped from nerveless fingers. "Damon, I need you to challenge me, to call me on my bullshit, to make me want to be better than I am." He moved closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "I need you to look at me the way you did when we danced. Like I'm worth saving." "You don't need saving," she whispered. "You need to save yourself." "I don't know how." The admission hung between them, raw and vulnerable. Outside, car horns honked, and the city hummed with life. But inside the bedroom, the only sound was their breathing. "Start by taking a leap of faith," Scarlett said softly. "Stop trying to control everything and just trust." "Trust what?" "This." She placed her hand over his heart, feeling the rapid beat beneath her palm. "Trust that what we have is real. Trust that I'm here because I choose to be, not because you're paying me to be." Damon covered her hand with his, pressing it closer to his chest. "If I ask you to stay, really ask, not as your employer, but as a man who's completely in love with you, what would you say?" Scarlett's heart soared, but she forced herself to think carefully. This was the moment that would define everything. "I would say that I love you too," she said finally. "But I won't be your kept woman, Damon. I won't be another beautiful thing you own. Then be my partner." The words came out in a rush. "Not in business, in life. Be the woman who challenges me, who drives me crazy, who makes me want to be worthy of her." "And the arrangement? The contract?" "Void, null, whatever legal term makes it disappear." He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her palm. "I don't want to hire you, Scarlett. I want to marry you." The proposal hit her like lightning. "Marry me? Someday, when you're ready, when we figured out how to do this without contracts or conditions." His smile was tentative, hopeful. "When you trust me enough to say yes." Scarlett stared at him, this complicated, brilliant, impossible man who'd just offered her everything she'd never dared to dream of. "I have one condition," she said finally. Damon's face fell. "What?" "The sapphire necklace you bought at the auction?" She smiled, the expression transforming her entire face. "I want to wear it to our first real date. You know, The one where you ask me out because you want to, not because you have to. Relief flooded his features. Scarlet Rivers, would you like to have dinner with me tonight? I thought you'd never ask. When he kissed her, it was nothing like their carefully orchestrated public displays. This kiss was real, desperate and passionate, and full of promise. It tasted like new beginnings and happily ever afters, like two people who'd finally stopped running from what they wanted most. Outside, Manhattan glittered in the afternoon sun, but inside the penthouse, Scarlett and Damon had found something more valuable than any business deal or billion-dollar empire. They'd found each other. 6 months later, the headlines read, "Tech mogul Damon Blackstone proposes to environmental scientist Scarlett Rivers in Tuscany." The accompanying photo showed them laughing on a vineyard terrace, Scarlett's hand displaying a stunning emerald ring that matched her eyes perfectly. But the real story wasn't in the magazines. It was in the quiet moments. Morning coffee shared in comfortable silence, heated debates about renewable energy over dinner, the way Damon's face lit up when Scarlett walked into a room. It was in the way they'd learned to trust each other, to build something real from the ashes of their pretend romance. And if their love story had started with a contract, well, it was written now in something far more permanent than ink. It was written in their hearts,